Dr. James was giving a lost sheep a haircut when he saw something strange. There was cat litter stuck in the sheep's wool. It was a first for him, and he couldn't guess why it was there. What he found out next made him start crying right there in the barn. Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. Earlier that morning, Dr. James had received a strange call from Frank, one of the farmers in the area. He did not own any sheep, but somehow a sheep had ended up in his barn. The animal appeared to be lost, its fur matted and in horrible shape. Frank had immediately called Dr. James to come and take a look at it, not expecting it to take such a strange turn. "Frank, have you seen this?" Dr. James asked with wide eyes. When Frank joined him to take a look at what he had found, he gasped. "Oh my God, how did those end up there? Are they okay? How many of them are there? Can you tell?" he exclaimed. To his surprise, the vet had found 4 little kittens in the sheep's wool. Dr. James tried to take the kittens out of the wool, but they were completely stuck and he couldn't free them without hurting either them or the sheep. So, he carefully shaved off the rest of the sheep's wool and he grabbed the kittens one by one and rolled them into a warm blanket. "They are still so young," Frank said. He was right. They could only be a couple of weeks old. Frank called his wife to come and keep an eye on the kittens while he ran to a nearby pet store to get some kitten formula, and Dr. James took care of the sheep. Apart from its matted and dirty fur, it looked perfectly healthy, which surprised him. "Dr. James, how could a sheep survive in the wilderness so long without getting malnourished or ill? And those kittens?" "It seems impossible," Frank's wife asked, and Dr. James raised his shoulders in response. "I have to be honest with you, Sandra. I have absolutely no idea. I have never seen something like this in my life before." Just when the vet had finished taking care of the sheep, Frank returned with warm bottles of kitten formula. All 3 of them started feeding the kittens, who eagerly drank up the whole thing. Even though they seemed to be in great health, these little babies sure are hungry. The vet laughed, but this was not the end yet. Their special story had only just begun. How did this sheep survive in the wild for so long? And the kittens? And why was the sheep even carrying the kittens in the first place? What did they eat? So many questions, and still 0 answers. Dr. James was determined to find out what was going on, but he didn't even know where to start. Luckily, Frank had a good idea, and Dr. James and Sandra were on board with it immediately. He sent out a message to all farmers in the area, asking if anyone was missing a sheep and hoping that if they did, they would reach out to them. In the meantime, Dr. James sent out a message to his own colleagues as well. Obviously, Dr. James and the other vets in the area kept a record of all the animals they treated. Dr. James himself had not treated any pregnant cat in the past few months, but perhaps one of his colleagues had, and they would be able to track down the kitten's mother. Of course, it would probably take some time for Frank and Dr. James to hear back from anyone. In the meantime, they made sure the sheep and the kittens were not hungry, thirsty, or cold. They noticed that the animals did not like being separated from each other, and the kittens wouldn't stop meowing if they were taken away from the sheep. They all crawled together next to its belly and laid there, enjoying each other's warmth. It seemed like they had gotten used to each other's company. Since it was already late, Dr. James went home and left Frank and Sandra with the kittens. He offered to take them to his clinic, but they insisted on leaving them at the farm. They seemed perfectly healthy, and this way they could stay close to the sheep. The next morning, Dr. James returned to the farm with news. He had spoken to a colleague. Dr. James explained that one of his colleagues did remember treating a pregnant cat recently, but she lost track of it after it ran away. The color of its fur matched the baby kittens, and the time period in which she was pregnant and the kitten's age added up. It was very possible that this cat was actually their mother. There was only one problem. They had no idea where she was. And Dr. James was not the only one who had news. Frank had heard from another farmer who had recently lost a sheep. They had spoken on the phone, and the other farmer agreed to come and take a look. If it really was his sheep, he would definitely recognize it as soon as he saw it. As Eric's truck rumbled down the gravel path towards Frank's farm, a sense of anticipation filled the air. Upon arrival, he made his way to the barn where the mysterious sheep was housed. One look was all it took. Eric's eyes lit up with recognition at the sight of the distinctive mark on the sheep's side, a swirl pattern in its wool that resembled a small tornado. "That's my sheep," he exclaimed, his voice a mix of disbelief and relief. Eric approached the sheep, his steps slow and measured. As he stroked its wool, his face softened with affection. "I've had this sheep since it was just a lamb," he shared with Frank and Dr. James. "Never thought I'd see it again." His voice carried a mix of joy and nostalgia, recounting memories of the sheep on his farm, its playful antics, and its calm presence among the flock. The mark on the sheep's wool, now more evident up close, captivated everyone's attention. It wasn't just any mark. It was a natural pattern within the wool, unique and easily recognizable. This birthmark, resembling a spiral galaxy, had been the key to Eric's instant recognition of his long-lost sheep, setting it apart from any other in his flock. Gathering around in the barn, Eric began recounting the night the sheep went missing. "It was during one of the worst storms we've had," he said, his voice tinged with the stress of that memory. Lightning had struck a tree, breaking the fence, and amidst the chaos and noise, the sheep had bolted, frightened and disoriented. He had searched for days, but to no avail. The sheep had vanished into the stormy night. Eric paused, looking at the sheep again, his brow furrowed in thought. But how on earth did she end up here with kittens in her wool? He wondered aloud. This peculiar situation was as baffling as it was miraculous. Frank, Dr. James and Eric exchanged puzzled glances, each lost in their own thoughts about this curious mystery. "That storm was like nothing I'd ever seen," Eric continued, his eyes distant as he recalled the event. He described the howling wind, the relentless rain, and the crack of thunder that seemed to shake the very ground. "It was a night of chaos, the kind where you can't see a hand in front of your face," he said, painting a vivid picture of the tempestuous evening when the sheep had disappeared. Speculation began about the sheep's actions that night. Dr. James proposed that, driven by instinct and fear, the sheep might have sought shelter in a nearby barn. "It's possible that she stumbled upon an abandoned barn, maybe even found the mother cat there," he mused, trying to piece together the fragmented story of that fateful night. They imagined the scene. The lost and frightened sheep seeking refuge from the storm, encountering a stray cat, perhaps also seeking shelter. In that shared space, away from the howling winds and driving rain, a bond might have formed, an unusual alliance forged by the need for warmth and safety in the midst of nature's fury. The barn, a haven in the tempest, became a sanctuary for both the sheep and the cat. They might have huddled together, the sheep's thick wool providing much-needed warmth. In that moment, amidst the storm's wrath, an unlikely companionship formed, a silent understanding between two creatures braving the same storm. "When the storm cleared and morning came," Eric said, "I found the barn in disarray, but no sign of her. The farm had been left in a state of upheaval, the broken fence a mute testament to the night's events. The sheep was gone, vanished into the early morning mist, leaving behind only questions and a profound sense of loss." In the quiet corners of Frank's barn, Dr. James observed with fascination the interactions between the sheep and the kittens. He took notes, his eyes reflecting the wonder he felt. The sheep, gentle and patient, seemed to have formed a unique bond with the kittens, watching over them like a guardian. The kittens, in turn, played around her, their tiny paws occasionally brushing against her wool. The sight was something to behold. The large, serene sheep and the tiny, energetic kittens moving together in harmony. The kittens would scamper and tumble, always returning to the sheep's side, nuzzling into her wool. The sheep responded with gentle nuzzles, a scene of pure affection and camaraderie between species that would otherwise never interact this closely. There was a sense of comfort and security in their company. The kittens, playful and curious, often found solace snuggled against the sheep's warm wool. The sheep, in turn, seemed to take pleasure in their presence, her eyes softening whenever they curled up close to her, a serene expression settling over her face as if she found their presence just as comforting. Dr. James pondered the nature of the bond. Could it be maternal instincts? He mused, watching the sheep care for the kittens with a tenderness that transcended species. Though she had never been a mother herself, her behaviour suggested a deep, nurturing connection, a maternal-like affection that was both puzzling and heartwarming. This relationship between the sheep and kittens was more than just a matter of circumstance. It was a bond forged by need, comfort, and perhaps a mutual understanding. Their connection transcended the barriers of species, offering a glimpse into the complex emotional world of animals that so often remains hidden from human eyes. Word of the extraordinary bond between the sheep and kittens began to spread, catching the attention of local media. Reporters flocked to Frank's farm, eager to cover this unusual story. Cameras and microphones became a common sight, capturing the tender moments between the sheep and her unlikely companions, broadcasting this unique tale to a wider audience. The community's intrigue grew as the story unfolded. Neighbours and local residents, drawn by the tale of the protective sheep and her feline friends, visited Frank's farm. People of all ages watched in awe as the sheep gently interacted with the kittens, their curiosity and amazement evident in their hushed tones and smiling faces. A local news segment highlighted the mystery of the sheep and kittens. The reporter stood in the barn, narrating the unusual story, her voice filled with wonder. The camera panned to the sheep and kittens, capturing their interactions, the bond they shared becoming a symbol of hope and unity in the small community. Interviews with Frank, Eric, and Dr. James offered personal insights into the story. Each shared their perspective, their voices tinged with emotion as they recounted the discovery of the sheep and kittens and the incredible bond they had formed. The interviews painted a picture of a community brought together by this heartwarming and mysterious event. As the story of the sheep and kittens spread, it captured the hearts of people far beyond the local community. Social media buzzed with discussions and shares, and the tale resonated with many, touching on themes of unexpected friendship, resilience, and the nurturing power of connection, transcending the boundaries of a small farm to reach a national audience. A somber mood enveloped Frank's farm with the discovery of the mother cat's body in a nearby field. The once joyful atmosphere dimmed as the reality of the kitten's loss sank in. It was a stark reminder of the fragility of life, a poignant chapter added to the already remarkable story of the sheep and her feline companions. Frank, Eric, and Dr. James stood together, sharing a moment of silence for the mother cat. "Life can be so unpredictable," Frank said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. Dr. James nodded in agreement, reflecting on the strength of the bond that had formed between the sheep and the kittens, now more poignant in the wake of their mother's passing. News of the mother cat's fate spread through the community, bringing a wave of sadness. Neighbours and locals who had followed the story closely began leaving flowers and small tributes at the edge of Frank's farm. It was a tender display of shared grief and support, a community coming together in the face of loss. In the midst of sorrow, the sheep's protective nature towards the kittens shone even brighter. The community, moved by the situation, rallied to provide support. Donations of food, blankets, and toys for the kittens poured in, and volunteers offered their time to help care for them. The sheep, ever vigilant, continued to watch over her unlikely charges with an unwavering sense of duty. The loss of the mother cat seemed to deepen the bond between the sheep and the kittens. They were now more than just companions. They were a family forged by circumstance and nurtured by shared experiences. The kittens clung to the sheep more than ever, finding comfort in her presence, a bittersweet reminder of the mother they had lost. The unique relationship between the sheep and the kittens sparked a wave of speculation among experts and locals alike. Why did the sheep take on such a protective role, they wondered. Some theorized it was a natural instinct, while others believed it was a response to the shared experience of survival. The mystery of their bond became a topic of much discussion and intrigue. Debates emerged about the nature of the sheep's behaviour. Was it a display of maternal instincts, despite the difference in species? Frank and the locals exchanged stories and observations, each trying to understand the sheep's motivations. The possibility of a maternal connection, though scientifically unexplained, seemed to resonate with many as a plausible explanation for the sheep's nurturing actions. Theories about mutual survival began to take shape. Some speculated that the sheep and kittens had formed an alliance out of necessity, each aiding in the other's survival in the wild. This idea of shared hardship forging an unbreakable bond seemed to fit the narrative of their journey, adding another layer of depth to their extraordinary relationship. Animal behaviourists took an interest in the case, offering professional insights into the sheep's actions. It's quite rare for such cross-species caregiving to occur, one expert noted during a televised interview. They delved into discussions about animal emotions and instincts, pondering the complexities of the bond between the sheep and the kittens, a connection that defied conventional understanding. Amidst all the theories and speculations, Dr. James found himself pondering the enduring mysteries of the story. How exactly had the kittens ended up in the sheep's wool? How had they managed to survive and thrive in such unusual circumstances? These questions lingered in his mind, a reminder of the many wonders and enigmas of the natural world. The ring of the phone broke the quiet of Dr. James's office. It was Eric, his voice laced with a mix of excitement and disbelief. "Dr. James, you won't believe this. I think I've found something that might explain everything about the sheep and kittens," he said. Intrigued and eager, Dr. James listened intently, his curiosity piqued by the prospect of finally unravelling the mystery. Dr. James hurried to Eric's barn, the same place where the sheep had been found. The air was thick with anticipation as they stood at the threshold, both aware that they might be on the cusp of a significant discovery. "Let's find out what really happened," Dr. James said, stepping into the barn with a sense of purpose and hope. Inside the barn, Eric led Dr. James to an old, dust-covered camera mounted in the corner. "I had completely forgotten about this old thing," Eric admitted. "But it's been here all along and it might have recorded what happened that stormy night." The possibility that the camera held the answers to their lingering questions filled them with a sense of eager anticipation. As Eric set up the old monitor connected to the camera, Dr. James watched, his heart racing with the possibility of uncovering the truth. The screen flickered to life, showing grainy images of the barn interior. "Let's see if this old footage can finally shed some light on our mystery," Dr. James said, leaning forward to get a better view. The footage began to play, revealing scenes from the barn on the fateful night. Dr. James and Eric watched intently, their eyes scanning the screen for any clues. The footage was shaky and unclear at times, but it was their best chance to understand the unlikely bond that had formed between the sheep and the kittens. The camera captured the intensity of the storm outside, with flashes of lightning briefly illuminating the barn's interior. Amidst the chaos, they saw the sheep, panicked and disoriented, seeking refuge inside the barn. The footage offered a raw and unfiltered glimpse into the harrowing night that set the stage for the extraordinary events that followed. As they continued watching, the figure of the mother cat emerged, her movements hesitant yet determined. With great care, she carried her newborn kittens into the barn, one by one, seeking shelter from the unforgiving storm. The scene was touching, a poignant display of a mother's instinct to protect her young against all odds. The next sequence on the footage revealed a heartwarming moment. The sheep, upon noticing the tiny kittens, slowly approached them. Gently and with great care, she seemed to wrap them in her wool, offering warmth and protection. This tender act of kindness was a moving sight, providing a possible explanation for how the kittens ended up in her care. The footage continued, showing the sheep nurturing the kittens over the ensuing days. It was a testament to their will to survive and the unlikely bond they had formed. The video offered clues, but left some questions unanswered, like how they managed to stay healthy and thrive under such unusual circumstances. As the footage came to an end, Dr. James and Eric sat in silence, deeply moved by what they had witnessed. The mystery of the sheep and kittens had unfolded in front of them, revealing a story of survival, compassion, and an unexpected act of kindness that transcended the boundaries of nature. It was a realization that touched them both profoundly. Dr. James gathered the community to share the incredible footage found in Eric's barn. As the story of the sheep and kittens' survival during the storm was revealed, a sense of awe filled the room. The community, already captivated by the animal's story, now understood the depth of their journey. The revelation brought a new layer of appreciation and wonder to the already extraordinary tale. This story, now enriched with the discovery, highlighted the incredible acts of compassion inherent in nature. The community was reminded of the powerful survival instincts and the unexpected kindness found in the animal kingdom. It was a testament to the strength and resilience of creatures big and small, a story that resonated with the natural empathy present in all living beings. In honor of the sheep and kittens' remarkable journey, the community organized a celebration. It was a festive event filled with joy and gratitude. People from near and far came to witness the animals that had unwittingly become local heroes. The air was filled with music, laughter, and stories as everyone gathered to celebrate the extraordinary bond and survival of these animals. As the story gained more attention, families expressed their desire to adopt the sheep and kittens. Finally, loving homes were found for each of them. These families, touched by the animal's story, eagerly welcomed them into their homes, promising to continue the care and love that had been showered upon them at Frank's farm. Dr. James took a moment to reflect on the unfolding events. He marveled at the power of compassion, both in the animal world and among the humans who had come together to support these creatures. The unpredictability of nature, coupled with the heartwarming response from the community, underscored the profound connections that can arise in the most unexpected circumstances. The story of the sheep and kittens was, at its core, a tale of survival against remarkable odds. Their journey from a stormy night to a community's embrace was a narrative of resilience and hope. It served as a reminder of the strength found in unity and the instinct to protect and care, regardless of the challenges faced. The bond between the sheep and kittens highlighted a powerful theme: unity in the face of adversity. Their story was a living example of how beings, when brought together by circumstance, can form unbreakable bonds. It was a lesson in cooperation and mutual support, a testament to the strength that comes from standing together. As the story of the sheep and kittens concluded, Dr. James and the community reflected on the lessons learned. It was a journey that had enlightened them about the depths of animal emotions and the importance of empathy. These lessons transcended the boundaries of a small farm, impacting the lives of all who had followed this remarkable story. In contemplation, Dr. James mused on the mysterious and often unexplainable ways of nature. The story of the sheep and kittens was a clear example of nature's unpredictability and its capacity for unexpected kindness. It was a reminder that, despite our understanding, nature always holds mysteries that can surprise and inspire us. The story of the sheep and kittens concluded with a heartfelt farewell from the community. It was a celebration of their emotional journey and the enduring spirit of all who had cared for them. The story, which had started with a simple discovery, had blossomed into a tale of compassion, resilience, and the mysterious beauty of nature, leaving a lasting impression on all who had been a part of it.